This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
And we are live here on Pet Life Radio, and we are just firing up as well on my Instagram Live. The followers are being told that we are live here for you, here for your pets. You know the drill, very simple stuff. You want to get a hold of me, you want to ask questions, then just you can reach out to me here right on the Pet Life Radio or on Instagram. Just type away. I'm waving. Good morning, good morning. Hello, Deb, how you doing? Sharon, how's everything? Okay, so of course, we want your questions. I hope everybody had a great week. I think we obviously will wait until we get some more people on. We want to talk about this coming weekend and usually barbecues. So any issues? One of the things we want to talk about, obviously, is safety. Here it is. Whenever you have these holiday weekends, we know whether it's going to be Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, you name it, there's going to be barbecues. And which is great. Love everybody getting together. Good morning, good morning. But some just simple basics to remember as far as the barbecuing, the holiday. Number one, one of the most common problems that we see, it's not getting a hold of the meat, jumping up on the grill, maybe burning a paw. That happens. But one of the most dangerous things is the one that you don't even think is a problem, and that is the corn cob, the illustrious corn cob. So what happens is, you first of all, you cut them into sometimes quarters, halves, thirds, and you got a piece this big. And then you eat all the corn away. No problem. Easy, right? It's good. And what do you do with the cob? You toss it in the trash. Well, let me tell you something. That little cob, that little thing, it could be potentially one of the most expensive corn cobs you'll ever buy. Because when that thing lodges in a dog's intestine, and it's going to, there's only one way to get rid of it. I mean, sometimes if you're lucky, if they actually crumple it up into smaller pieces, they might be able to vomit it up, which is fine. But usually they don't. That thing goes into the stomach. They swallow it whole. It gets into the stomach. Then from the stomach, it gets into the stomach, into the intestine. So it's kind of going through the intestine. And all of a sudden, at one point, that intestine gets really thin and that corn cob gets stuck. Then it's a disaster. Not only is it just sometimes, if you get through it right away, it's what's called an enterotomy. Enterotomy is when you have to cut into the intestine and open up, you remove what's in there, easy peasy, a couple of stitches, you're done. But if it's been there for a long time, maybe if it's in there for a long time, then what happens is it literally destroys the blood supply. And then you have to actually do what is called a resection and anastomosis. You have to remove a piece of the bowel, the intestine, and then you have to sew the two fresh ends together, which technically is not a challenging procedure. But what you can't tell is how much the damage was done to the intestine, to the blood supply. And sometimes those sutures you put in don't hold. Then you get an intestine that opens up. It is major disaster. So with any foreign body, it's very, very important to just kind of evaluate the blood supply to the portion of the intestine that was affected, and it's tough sometimes. When you get to wondering if there's any natural remedies for yeast between my dog's fingers, I assume toes, keeps licking at times, odor, thank you. So as far as natural remedies, I know they say that vinegar and water might help kill some of the yeast. But I don't know about natural, but there's some very safe sprays that you can use that have ketoconazole, they have fluconazole. What I like are the combination sprays. I have one that is called Dermamist, but things like Duxo, there are a lot of great ones out there. You want to look for something that contains both a antifungal and also an antibacterial. The ones and sometimes have an anti-inflammatory, a little cortisone built in as well. What you got to be careful is when you are putting anything topical onto a dog, all right, their natural inclination, dogs lick, and they will start licking what you just put on them. So if you're going to put something on a dog as a medication to help stop the yeast, whether it's in the ears, whether it's in the feet, the pads, whatever, you then want to put a collar on, a cone, something that it does not allow them to lick the spots that you just put on, for two reasons. Number one, a lot of this stuff, it may be great topically, but not good if it's taken internally. And number two, which is actually even more important, is that it's not going to work. Like I always say this to people, you get it. Sometimes it is so funny when you put it into terms that you can understand. So, for example, you have a little sore. Okay, simple, not serious. So what do you put on it? You put on it triple antibiotic ointment, a Neosporin, a Polysporin, Mupiricin, whatever. You put on a little antibiotic ointment. Now, if you rub that on and then immediately wiped it off, what's the point? How good is it going to do? So when you put something onto a dog and you don't prevent them, they're going to lick it right off. And then not only was it may not be good for them, I mean, some of the base of these things is not dangerous. Honestly, petroleum, they can handle that. And of course, the antibiotic, antifungal, they can handle that as well. But as far as effectiveness, it's not going to be effective. So it's not worth it. So if you're going to put anything topical onto a dog, all right, or a cat, you need to make sure that they can't get to it. And another trick is, a lot of times people, where do they apply these topicals? They apply it right before they go to bed. Well, truth is, again, you think the dog is really going to not lick while you're sleeping? Of course they are. In fact, they're going to probably lick more likely when you're not there to say, hey, Bowser, cut it out. So the worst time to put anything on top of the dog is before you go to bed, unless, of course, you're going to have the collar on, or you wrap it, you put a sock on, something to prevent the licking. So keep that in mind. All right. JB, how are you doing? Josh, good to see you. How's the pup, Troy? You got to let me know. Where's the yeast coming from? Is it food environment? Well, again, not an easy answer. So basically, there is yeast and the bacteria. Like let's take an ear, for example. There are normal bacteria, normal yeast, and the bacteria and the yeast sort of keep each other in check. And when one overpowers the other one, usually in ears, the yeast overpowers the bacteria. That's why the more common infection is called malassezia. And that's a yeast. That's the one that usually, that's that really thick black stuff that you clean out an animal's ear and you see it. And sometimes as you're cleaning it or scratching, that's usually a malassezia infection. However, if it's like a more of a brownish, yellowish, mucousy stuff, that might be Pseudomonas. That might be bacterial, and there's a beta hemolytic streps that you can also get from the ears. So that's when you want to use a combo. You want to clean the ears really well. Now, as far as the feet, what are yeast like? Yeast like moisture and dark. Well, let's look at a foot. First of all, what part of a dog's body sweats? Only 2 parts of a dog's body sweats, like has eccrine sweat glands. And do they sweat under the arms? Nope. Groin? Nope. But you know what they are? If you look at a dog's body, there are 2 parts of the body that look exactly alike to each other, but are unique to those 2 parts. Nowhere else in the body has this kind of tissue. Guesses? Anybody? Yeah, I'm sure you know. Pads and nose. Those are the only 2 areas that sweat. Wow. So you're looking at your foot. And where yeast infection probably happened, you see usually in the feet, in between the toes. So first of all, the moisture's there because the sweat. Secondly, how much light gets in between those toes? Not much. So it's dark, it's moist. Oh my God, that's a perfect environment. Then to add to the moisture, what do dogs do when they have this on their feet? They lick their feet. Oh, now they got saliva adding on to that. I mean, it's a disaster waiting to happen. So interestingly, why one of the products that I like to use, there's a product that I love it, and it is called Neopredef powder. It is a powder that you can, the yeast usually won't go, I mean, you can clean it well, but it usually won't go away on its own. So I recommend either, like I said, kind of a Dermamist, a Duxo type spray that has chlorhexidine or some sort of benzoyl peroxide. So these are the things, benzalkonium chloride, these are all things that help are antibacterial. Then you also want to use an antifungal, whether it's miconazole, fluconazole, ketoconazole, even something as good as an athlete's foot spray would be helpful. Look for like a Lamisil. So there are a lot of products out there that are great. Again, you got to make sure they don't lick. But I mean, if you clean it up well, will it go away on its own? I would use something that is antifungal. But for yeast, it's going to be one of the antifungals that's available. The product itself is often available over the counter. And then you want to keep the area really clean. But again, most importantly, you got to keep the dog away from it. So do your best to rig something up, and don't do it before you go to bed because you know it's going to happen. Eloise, good morning. Jan, how you doing? Is your dog's always dry? Is there something wrong? That's a really good question. Oh, the powder Neopredef, it's so fantastic. First of all, it's drying, which is what we need. It's antibacterial. It's antifungal, it's anti-inflammatory, and it has a little like a lumming lidocaine in it. So lidocaine is like a Novocaine the dentist puts in your mouth. So it covers everything. But again, you got to put it on a couple of times a day, and that is prescription. So you got to find it from your veterinarian. Now, dog's nose always dry is something wrong. So let's put it this way. A dog who is pretty sick will most likely have a dry nose. But a dry nose doesn't mean that they're going to be sick. Think of logic, okay? If the dog is sick, the nose will be dry. But the only thing that's not is called the contralateral, which you have to put it, you switch it. There's the converse, the inverse. So the converse would be if a dog is not sick, the nose would not be dry. That's not true. If the nose is dry, then the dog is sick. That's not true. But the one is not. If the dog is not sick, okay, then the nose will probably not be dry. I think I have to remember how to do that. But there's an inverse, a converse, and a contralateral. Contralateral is the only truth. If there's an if, then the contralateral is true. If it's not then it's not if. So play with it. You'll see what I mean. If my sister's there, she's out there. She's a logician. So that is the only thing that's real. So if your dog is well, it could still have a dry nose. If a dog is sick, it probably will have a dry nose. So, but not a dry nose doesn't necessarily mean it's sick. So anyway, that's why you have to. So don't go by that alone. You can have dogs that are running around fine. Remember, they sweat. If they're not sweating, then or they're dehydrated, you're not going to have a wet nose. But doesn't mean the dog is sick. Okay, Jan, can we dip their feet in hydrogen peroxide and clean the feet, then wash and dry? I mean, hydrogen peroxide. It's a good question. It probably will help these. Hydrogen peroxide, for example, is falling out of one thing. Let's go back to wounds. One thing you don't want to put on an open wound or a deep scratch that's bleeding is alcohol. Alcohol is great for dry or intact skin, and it's really good. It's got antibacterial. It's a good cleanser. That's why when we prep for surgery, usually the last thing we do is put alcohol. But if there is any break in the skin, if there's any bleeding, if there's any irritation, you do not want to use alcohol. What we used to use to clean wounds is peroxide, and now that has fallen out of favor. It bubbles up. You think it's great. So my recommendation is, again, if the skin is intact and you're doing to clean it, that's probably going to be fine. Maybe I've heard vinegar and water dilution, diluted vinegar is also good for yeast. But whatever you do, you want to use after you do that. Definitely, you want to wash and dry. That's important. So sometimes, the best soap that you can use just to clean a dog's up, clean a wound, is going to be like a Novocaine shampoo soap. It's interesting. Before I had my shoulder surgery, I had to go to one of the drugstores and get a chlorhexidine soap, and that you let it sit, and that is going to kill bacteria. That's good. If you just want a good cleansing agent that is not going to interfere with the dog's own pH of the skin, and that is darn Palmolive or Dawn dishwashing soap. That's, they say, is like, it's safe. It's really the best thing just to clean a dog up. So you might want to get that. It's even safer for pets or more tolerable to a pet than baby shampoo, just to put it into perspective. All right, baking soda on dirty front brush. Yes, baking soda, it's fine. First, baking soda is good because, again, it's going to have that drying effect. So you want to brush it out, and as long as that, they will do fine. If they don't want to, again, even if they lick a little baking soda, it's not the end of the world. All right, Steve, how you doing? Cat Snippers, hello. So anyway, it's halfway past the show. We want to come back. I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about insurance, and I want to talk about basically emergencies. I can't tell you how much you and anyone is spending on your pet for emergencies unnecessarily. Because I will tell you from experience, 90%, maybe even higher, of emergencies are not. So don't go away. We'll be back after these messages, and we'll give you some hints of what you can do if you have what you think is an emergency. We'll be right back.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms. And our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
We're back live here on Pet Life Radio 2. Had a great question. So hold on a second. Let me go back to that one. And that is, how often should we do a senior panel? It depends on the dog or the cat. Depends on how senior. The older, it would not be a bad idea to do it twice a year. As I just said, I got blindsided by my cat who had bloods 9 weeks earlier that were perfect. And all of a sudden, 9 weeks later, we had to put him to sleep for kidney lymphoma, a metastasized to the chest, a pleural effusion, meaning his pleura, his chest cavity was full of cancer fluid. I mean, this is 9 weeks. It's crazy. So, yes. Then the next thing was, it's chlorhexidine. Yes, chlorhexidine is great. Now, my cat has been on budesonide. Budesonide is a type of steroid. It's great. IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, every other day. So, if the cat's doing fine, what I would try to do is now go every third day. When you get to chlorambucil, which is Leukeran, which is also good, but that's more for if their IBD was like partly lymphoma, which, by the way, it could be. Many IBDs, when these cats are either finally get a biopsy or finally put to sleep or pass, it turns out they did have low-grade lymphoma. So chlorambucil is a strong possibility. It could be a daily or every other day medication. It's 2 milligram, very effective. But my feeling is this: cats tolerate steroids very well. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I wouldn't change. If the cat's doing well, then I sort of go every third day. See how that works for a while. If that doesn't work, and I'm sure you're monitoring this cat with blood work. If everything is fine, all right, no evidence of liver damage or issues because of the prolonged use of budesonide, then I would continue. And if you can get to every third day, that's even better. I wouldn't switch unless there was a reason to switch. Here are the reasons. Number one, the pet's not tolerating it anymore, not doing well. Number two, on the blood test, you see elevated liver enzymes, etc., and now you're looking for an alternative, then yes, you can try chlorambucil. But I would not switch to chlorambucil unless there was a good reason to, because for a cat, the budesonide is probably safer than the chlorambucil, my opinion. Blood test to detect cancer. Oh boy. The answer really is if the cancer is a blood-borne cancer, like a leukemia, then the answer is yes. And you can see you'll have either very high, very low. If there's certain cells going on in the bone marrow and everything is called pancytopenia, where everything is low, red cells, white cells, then you obviously have something going on. Could be severe infection, but it also could be a cancer. And you got to get a bone marrow sample and you got to do a whole bunch of stuff. Now, unfortunately, there's no specific test. However, if you run a blood test and there's a particular organ that is way out of whack, a pancreatic enzyme, a liver enzyme, kidney enzyme, then that could be because of a cancer. It could be other things too. It could be just pure disease. So, but anyway, you have to keep that in mind. So it will give you at least a clue that there is something wrong with that organ and further testing is necessary, whether it's going to be ultrasound, some sort of scan like a CT or an MRI, samples we can do without doing a biopsy. You can also start with some of these organs under ultrasound guide is doing a cytology. So you do an aspirate, send it to the lab. That might give you an answer, and it's way less invasive than cutting open and taking out a chunk of whatever it is. And sometimes if you're going to open something up to remove it, at least you'll see then is how extensive it really is. So I'm not sure that I would rely on a blood test to identify, yes, cancer. When we had Ollie in and he had, obviously the x-ray showed huge kidneys. We did an ultrasound. There was definitely a problem with the kidneys. We were able to do an aspirate and that gave us our answer. So it wasn't the blood test that diagnosed it, but it did sort of indicate a problem and then went from there. Okay, Jan, insurance company recommend. All right, boy, we're going to get to that. This is a very, very important topic, and I promised I would talk about it. Steve May, oh my God. Hello. What causes dogs to always eat grass? Boy, that is, well, back then, the $64,000 question. Now it's about a $10 million question. But anyway, and that is, we don't know. So their theories are that, first of all, grass is sweet. It is moist. It gives them a little moisture, and they like it. And they don't know that 20 minutes, half hour, an hour later, they might vomit from it. And how do we know this? Because there's something called aversion therapy. If you give a dog something that immediately makes them vomit, they will usually avoid it again. But if you give them something that makes them vomit half hour or more later, they don't make the association. So if they liked it when they ate it, they're going to eat it again. That's grass. So that's number one. Number two, does it actually soothe the stomach? Do they know it's going to make them vomit and that's why they ate it? I don't think so. I mean, they're really smart, but again, if they knew it was going to make them vomit, then they probably wouldn't eat it in the first place unless does the dog really know that because they have an upset stomach, they want to vomit, therefore I'm going to eat grass? I mean, look, I think they're amazing. We all do. We wouldn't love them so much if they weren't amazing, but are they that amazing that they know that it's going to make them vomit later, therefore they do it? I don't know. I have a tough time with that one. I love your theories because it's just a theory. There's nowhere in a book I found that says they're eating grass because. Whatever it is, it's conjecture. The hard work. I'm feeding a young feral cat 3 months now. I feed twice a day, Cannon Dry and supplement omegas, lysine. Its coat is much improved, but it doesn't seem to be gaining weight. So yeah, I mean, continue doing what you're doing. Maybe if you can, feed a little bit more. If it's a young cat, it's unlikely hyperthyroid, so I wouldn't even worry about that yet. Maybe just give it time. Also, if it's a stray, if it's feral, it's probably running around like crazy. So maybe it just needs more calories, and it sounds like you're feeding good food. So just very lean. Keep feeding it, maybe add a little bit more. All right, Veterinary Vibes, how you doing? Okay, there was another question I wanted to get to, insurance. All right, from Jan. Okay, pet insurance companies. I'm going to talk about insurance. Now, understand, this is my opinion. This is not textbook. It comes from 40 plus years of experience, and here's my take. All right, to me, insurance companies are like a Las Vegas casino. Now, who wins in Vegas? The house or the player? Right, the house. Now, I'm sure you may have had a good weekend. I'm sure there are many people you know that had a really good week, whatever. They say, oh my God, I won $4,000, $5,000, whatever. That could happen. Is that the norm or is that the exception? Well, if you look at a casino, you walk in with the ambiance, the lights, keeping the air conditioner on, and the staff walking around. I mean, that vibe is what people are going for, not necessarily the winning. And mostly the houses win. The house is going to win. So what happens with insurance? So you're paying a premium, which, by the way, the premiums have gone nuts. And Nationwide, for example, has doubled their premiums. And then you have to listen, they are looking for ways not to pay out, whether it's congenital, whether it's pre-existing. I mean, I'll give you an example, and I'm blowing my cool. I am going to be calling this company because I am really peeved. And that is this. The owner comes in with a complaint of a young dog. Now, how much do you know looking at a dog, whether it's a problem or not? So she was concerned that maybe there was something wrong with the eyes. She doesn't know, maybe it was a little discharge. Who knows? I check the dog out and I say, I write up, the eyes, there's nothing wrong with these eyes. Okay? She gets a letter, not because the doctor said, because she thought maybe there's someone else that we're not, your eyes are excluded. Any eye problem. Are you nuts? So this is what's going on in the industry. Now, they're taking your money, and they took your money every month. And sometimes it was $100 a month. Now I think Nationwide went up to $200 and something a month. Okay. And they are taking your money. To them, you're handing them over money. And what are they doing with that money? Is it just sitting in a bank account somewhere? No, they're taking your money and your money and your money, and they're getting thousands upon $1,000 a month, and they're investing it. And they're making money on your money, something you can do. They're making money on your money. So when they have that payout, that lucky guy that won a jackpot or great, at the tables, just, won a bunch of hands and walked with money, they're not even giving you your money you spent. They're using money. They're paying you back for that $8,000 or $10,000 veterinary bill, money that they made off of your and everybody else's money. So it doesn't touch them. So they're walking away smiling. And you are out because most of the time, you're not going to get back from the insurance company what you've put in. So my solution, and this is just a recommendation, is you open up accounts in Bowser's name, And every month, religiously automatic, you put money away in that. Do an interest-bearing savings account. And if it builds up a little bit and you have a good solid investment, you get back 5%, invest. But not your money. No, it's Bowser's money. You're just making money for him. And then if that time comes, after 5 years, you got, 10,000, let me see, if you're putting in $25 a year, after 5 years, you got 10 grand. So if you need something to put away, all right? So, again, $200 a month. So times 12 months is $2,400. And after 5 years, you got a lot of money put away. So, and if it's making a little money at the same time, that's okay too. So when you need that big event, that foreign body, that hit by car, that dog fight, that money, you're going to use the money that you put away for him for that in his account. So I have had more clients tell me they're not going to renew or lamenting over the fact that the insurance premiums have gotten out of control. So I'm just sharing that with you. So from most of my clients that have insurance, now I've had some, like the winner in Vegas, come in and say, "Oh my God, I love it. Last time my dog got super sick, it was $4,000, $5,000. They paid 80% of it." Well, great. You're a lucky one. You should go to Vegas. But most of the time, you're going to be saying, why they're taking my money and they're not doing anything. And especially when you look at what, for example, a dog as a puppy has a wart. Let's say an oral papilloma, very common in puppies. It goes away or we have to remove it. We do it, whatever it is. You realize that every skin mask for the rest of its life, they're not going to cover. They're going to look for every darn excuse not to pay out. And this is why I do not like them. I'm not a fan. I hope that I made that strong enough because that's how I feel. All right, next case. Also, why don't you come back at me? Tell me your experience. How many times you've been paid out? How many times they have rejected your claim? I'm just curious to know. That was a good question. Maybe there are parasites. If you can catch a fecal on this cat. Now, usually the kind of tapeworm, for example, cats have and dogs have is not the dreaded kind of coccus that have in Africa and robs the body of nutrition. It's more of an unsightly thing. But anyway, yes, you could probably add a dewormer to the food. Same as every insurance, we pay but we can't collect. Auto home. Exactly. Thanks, Sharon. It's true. All right. Hippos. Hello. All right, Beth. Thank you. I'm glad. No, I just because it's a problem, and I just hate seeing people do it. Fortunately, that's why I really don't. My dogs need anything as they get older, they need more. Yes, I mean for sure. Again, it's better to view. 80% of them raise their. I know, Jan. It's been crazy. Some of these companies, even Trupanion, Nationwide, all of them, Vets First Choice, whatever it is, they are raising premiums like crazy. Okay, Pet Life Radio, how you doing? Good. What else? All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick. You know what? Maybe we'll save it because we're out of time. Reason why a bank account works better than insurance. If you have 5 dogs and 3 cats, you can use your bank account for any of them. That's true. That's true. Good point also. If you put money away for every one of them, you can use it for insurance. You have to have a separate policy for each animal. Okay, here, insurance nickel and dime me with euthanasia. Right. At Andy and Presley's death, it's hell. Again, I'm sure that if we let this become an open forum, which I would love to do, you're going to find more negatives by far than positives. And that's what I found. And that's what I'm saying. This is not just me. This is 40 years behind me and listening to clients lamenting and complaints about their insurance problems. That's why I'm saying I don't recommend it. There's another reason. Think about this one, by the way. All right. 3% of pets in the United States are insured. Yet, every darn year, there's 2, 3, or 4 new insurance companies popping up. All right. Now, if only 3%, how come you're getting more? You know why? Because each one is making money. They're making money on you. So the newer insurance company is saying, wow, look at them. Let's clean up. Let's join the party here. So that tells you right there. If it got to the point where it was so fair and everybody was loving it and making great comments and telling their friends, like in Sweden, 50% of pets are insured because insurance companies, they're paying out properly. And they're not nickel and diming you to death. And they're not looking for excuses not to pay. So anyway, here's no. They raised $20 more a month because he's considered a senior at 6 years of age. Heck, at 6 years, I'm not even recommending annual blood test. Unless, of course, the animal is sick or needs a procedure. But just to do it because I'm coming in, that's like a person who's 40 and healthy as can be. going into now, again, this is just me, but I didn't start going about this, going in my colonoscopies and all that till I was in my 50s. And now he wants to actually say, I just had one when I was 70, and he wants to do it only now every 10 years because I've been clean for all the ones I've did before. So less is more. And yet the insurance companies are pushing for more and more and more. I just don't get it. All right. So as far as, we're going to talk about telemedicine because that was my second thing on my list, emergencies. How do we tell if my problem going on right now is really an emergency? And you don't know. So when you call your office late at night after they close and you get this, hi, thanks for calling so-and-so Animal Hospital. The office is closed. If you have an emergency, go to XYZ Animal Emergency Center. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit home and wait? No, you're going to go as you should. But once you get there, do you think that emergency clinician who's probably young, has no experience, has no wisdom, they may have knowledge, they're smart, they went to vet school, but no, they're going to send you home to say, Mrs. Smith, I know that looks scary. It's not. Just go home, enjoy your evening, see your doctor in the morning. Heck no. They are going to start doing tests. They don't know what to test for, so they test for everything. They have not gotten a good history to really know what the likelihood is. So really, and this is what you're paying. You're paying 3 times what you would have paid after you went to your vet. And to know the difference, you got to start using telemedicine. We can talk a little bit more about that, or find a doctor who is an idiot, as I am, and is concierge, meaning I get no premium for being concierge like my regular doctors, but I certainly will try to be there 24/7. So this is the biggest difference, and therefore you really need to know, is there an alternative to having to run to emergency? Yes, there is. We'll talk about it next week. All right. Anyway, I think that's all we have time for. Have a very safe holiday weekend. And remember, keep the food, the corn cob, the hot barbecue away from your pets, or your pets away from the hot barbecue. And hopefully everybody be safe. And all right, Paul, oh my God, Hippo, come in next week. That's a good question. The dogs that lick their paws excessively, could it be food allergy or environment? The answer is yes and yes. So I'll give you some hints how to differentiate if you can. And I will tell you only about 15, maybe 20%, usually 15% of canine allergies are food related. But one of the biggest problems we have with food allergy is licking the feet, chewing the feet. So how do we differentiate? What do we do? So we'll talk about that next week. Please, Hippo, come on forward next week and remind me, because this brain, it's used up. No extra space. So I can use a reminder. All right, have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel here on Instagram and Pet Life Radio. Take care.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.